Okay, so by now you should have been discussing how it's similar and different to the Crusades to the Holy Lands. One of the big issues and one of the big debates over the Albigensian Crusade is the political motivation. Were there politically sound reasons to crusade against the Cathars, or is it all very cynical? It is, we've explored the issue of heresy, but this is a crusade against Christians. They're not perhaps what the church would consider the right type of Christians, but they are Christians. However, it's a papal-backed war. But unlike to Jerusalem, which is much more like an armed pilgrimage, you were expected to go on the Albigensian Crusade for 40 days. 40 days service is the same amount of time as you would give your lord under feudalism. So the Pope is kind of trying to make himself the equivalent of of a lord calling for military service. The Crusaders are also very narrow from where they come from. It's pretty much all French people. Why? Nice and handy for them. Oh, good, I'll get remission of sins and in the good eyes of the church, and I don't have to go all the way to the Holy Lands. Much easier and less risky to go down to the south of France. So because of this, it is taken to be much more political than religious. Particularly since the ruling lord, our Count Raymond, he is Christian, he's a sympathizer for the Cathars, sure. But not only is he Christian, he is a crusader. He has gone on crusade to the Holy Land. So they're actually leading a crusade into the lands of a very popular and well-known crusader. So that is a big, big deal. Why is being taken as being political is, and why Count Raymond gets rightly so upset, is that it's kind of treated the way the outcomes, if they're successful in taking the land, it's handled the same way as if they'd taken land in the east. The Crusaders could keep the land that they took from the heretics, but nobody wanted to stay past the 40 days. You might think, oh, well, this should be a quick crusade. It was not. And part of the reason is 40 days and you're coming from elsewhere in France. You could pop back home pretty quickly at the end of it. So what happened then is a reflection of all of this. It really boils down to Count Raymond the 6th of Toulouse versus Pope Innocent III. In 1208, Peter of Castelnau was assassinated. The Pope calls for a crusade. Raymond actually joins that crusade in 1209. One of the first places where there is action is a place called Béziers. I'm trying to find it on a map, and I do know this part of France, so you think I should be able to find Béziers, but it's a way that it's laid out here. Can I find it to point out to you guys? At this point, you've already spotted it, and are like, it's there, Dr. McAllister, I can see Béziers. I'm going blind. I can't see it. Anyway, look for it. It's somewhere there. It was taken really, there it is. There it is. It was taken really brutally. It was a really bloodthirsty capture of Béziers. And this led to a lot of other towns going, oh, hell no, that's not happening to us, and surrendering. One of the other key people involved in this crusade is Simon de Montfort, who comes across as a really horrible individual. We're going to see him again because he is involved in the 4th crusade, only he actually does make it to the Holy Lands. So Simon de Montfort takes control and Raymond reverts, but Raymond also has powerful backing coming from over the border here. See, it says Royaume d'Aragon here. That is the Kingdom of Aragon. That is actually Spain. So this is really where this is, it's the Pyrenees mountain range. Oh, sorry, it's disappeared. Come back. Pyrenees mountain range between France and Spain. So because they're neighbours, Toulouse, he has the support of the King of Aragon, whose name is Peter. And Peter of Aragon is again a crusader, very well respected by the Pope, and therefore a very powerful ally to have. So basically what breaks down then is that the Pope ends up going to war against Peter of Aragon, which is a really big deal. It's the Pope against Christian kings, because remember, Spain, a Christian king in Spain isn't just a Christian king who's a crusader, which Peter is, but the whole Reconquista. To pick a fight against a Spanish Christian king is a big deal. But even gets even worse. In 1213, there is a Battle of Muret, and Peter is killed in this battle. The person victorious, Simon de Montfort. The 1215 Fourth Lateran Council confirms Simon's victory and confirms the lands that he won as a result of these battles, which leads to huge resentment of Simon. Raymond, this now on to Raymond the Seventh. Cat, you're not jumping up on top of that. She's going to dealing with jumping up cats at the same time as trying to deal with my notes and flicking this map on. Raymond, we're on to Raymond the Seventh now, because, you know, medieval people, Raymond the Seventh. Cat, get off. Sorry, everyone. Right, now, come on. Yeah, you're not turning on the thing. Raymond fights back. He takes a place called Beaucara from Simon, defeats Simon, and Simon therefore attacks Toulouse very brutally. And Raymond then takes it back, and Simon then besieges Toulouse over 1217 to 18. Simon is then killed in 1218. Nobody from the Languedoc perspective is remotely sad about that. And his son, Amalric, takes over to protect the lands that his father has won in the south of France. Really, where changes the tide of this war is when the new French king starts to take over and put it under his control. This is King Louis VIII. He becomes King of France in 1223, and this changes everything, because now it is a war led by the Pope and the King of France. The King of France has kind of been dipping in and out of it until this point. But in 1225, the Council of Bourges rules against Raymond. Cat, get off the thing. Jesus, right, get off. 1225, she's obviously very keen on learning about French history. 1225, the Council of Bourges rules against Raymond, and this leaves it open for the French king, Louis, to lead the crusade. Although Louis then died, he's established a pattern for the French monarchy to get really involved in this crusade, and it leads to, ultimately, the Peace of Paris in 1229 and the end of the crusade. The reason why it's lasting for several decades is because of the problems it faced from the outset. The army is coming for 40 days. This means that the size of the army fluctuates hugely. They don't have the ability to really consolidate their conquests. They're also French people fighting against other crusaders. A lot of these nobles from Languedoc, if they're not Cathars themselves, they're tolerant of it, but they've been on crusade. Most of them have at least some crusading connections. It's not like they're fighting against a very defined opposition. Raymond of Toulouse was supported by King Peter of Aragon. So the Cathars were indirectly supported by a king who was crusading against Muslims in Spain. It is particularly comes to a head where it's much more formalized after the Council of Navarre, when Peter takes this whole area under his protection. So they are fighting against a protectorate of one of the most important kings of Spain. Simon de Montfort is not only capturing the lands of Cathar heretics, he's capturing Catholic lands. In the case of taking the lands of the Counts of Toulouse from them, they're sympathizers, but not Cathars. He is seizing, through the means of crusade, the lands of Catholics. There is huge local support for Toulouse and hatred of Simon, which means that people are perfectly happy, even if they might be sympathetic to the Crusaders. They don't like the personalities involved on the crusading side. So the next question I've got for you before I move on to my last video is, what were the consequences of the Albigensian Crusade?